Hello, this is Kim with Standing on Solid Ground. I am your host of this motivational and inspirational podcast. And today's book of the Bible, 2 Samuel. The book of the 2 Samuel continues to show us the virtue of humility, the destruction of pride, and the faithfulness of God's promises. In the 2 Samuel, we see where David had succeeded and we see where he had failed. We see also God's promises for the future king at the beginning and the end of the story. So 2 Samuel is actually the continuation of part 1. It's a part 1 and part 2. The rise and fall, the successes and the failures. And if we think about it, it was so much that was going on in 1st and 2nd Samuel that the illustrations were just astounding, especially when it came to David. David was a chosen one of God, and David disappointed God. But Samuel was, again, as I expressed in the previous episode, God had anointed Samuel to be a speaker for him, to anoint the kings as he has instructed him to do, to tell them when they do wrong, as well as when they are proud by God, when God is proud of them for doing the good things as well as the bad things. And so the importance of 1st and 2nd Samuel was the humility, the destruction of pride, and the faithfulness and promises of God. Meaning that as long as we are humble before God, God can continue to bless us. When we become prideful before God, that's when He's going to destroy us. And then God is going to show His faithfulness either way that it goes. If He's going to tell you He's going to bless you, He's going to bless you. But also if He tell you He's going to curse you, definitely He's going to curse you as well. These were two important books of the Bible because also this is the introduction of different prophets that were outside of Joshua and Moses that gave us that sense of God know who He wants to do what He wants them to do. And although all of us may not be in that hierarchy positions like we would like to be, like everybody can't be the president of the United States. Everybody can't be the vice president or the governor or the mayor. They were chosen. They were chosen people by God. That even though a lot of people will say, well, people voted them in. Yes. But a lot of times when we think about it, God knows who He wants in office and He knows who He don't want in office. And if He did not want a certain person in office for whatever the reason, timing could be an essence, meaning that God may have something specific for that particular person, but just not for right now. If you look at the history of all of our presidents, and if we think about it, I remember when Dr. Martin Luther King, even though I wasn't alive at that time, but I did watch recordings when he said that he believed that one day we would have a president of another race, and we did. And who would have thought that it would have been years later? But it did happen. And now, as a vice president, we have different entities that's, collaborated into one person. And a lot of different structures, a female, African American, Asian. So, when you look at where we have come from, this all stems from these biblical times. This is not anything new to God. He knew it was coming. but timing was everything. And when timing is in God's hands, He puts the right people in place. Even though they may have one agenda, God has something else in mind. And He's going to get His agenda done no matter what you try to do. I've seen it happen. Against all odds, God know how to get His agenda worked out. And with the case of Samuel, he may not have been a priest. He may not have been a king, or if he was a king, I'm trying to think if he was a king. I believe that he was, but I have to go back and read through that again. But I do know that he was anointed by God. And I do know that he was a judge. But when God had something in mind for him to do, He went to Saul and he went to David. Now these two men were king, and they were appointed and anointed to be king. But the messenger, don't ever think he was just a messenger. He was so much more. Samuel was so much more than just a messenger. And we have to understand in our lives that although there are those that are in higher positions in the body of Christ, don't ever make the mistake in believing that your position is not important. And this is what it's all about. In order to relate ourselves to the Bible, we have to understand who these individuals are. And this is why God made it very important for this to be done. That it's not just a name, it's who they were to God. And that's what makes the difference. This is Kim with Standing on Solid Ground. You have yourself a wonderful and blessed day.